Shabbat Shalom everyone. Shabbat Parashat Chukat. Shabbat Parashat Chukat is a Shabbos in which the Torah moves over from speaking about the first year and a half in the desert to the last nearly year in the desert, basically last year in the desert. And the Parashat deals a lot with death. As we're getting closer to Eretz Israel, we're going to do in this Parashat, we're going to do the journey, last section of the journey that's going to place Bnei Israel on the border of Eretz Israel. But the parasha starts off with Parashat Para Aduma, which deals about how do you purify yourself from death. Then we have the death of Miriam, the death of Yaron. Bnei Israel complain, Lama helitanu lamutu b'midbar? Why did you bring us out in order to die over here? A lot of complaints, a lot of challenges. As we're moving closer, what's happening over here in this parasha? We're moving towards Eretz Israel. Eretz Israel is in many ways Eretz HaChaim, the land of life. But when you're speaking about life, then in many ways the desert was much better. Everything was provided for Bnei Israel very easily. Clothing, food, miraculous food. And when they start moving closer to Eretz Israel, they start complaining about that. They no longer want that miraculous food. They don't want the man. They want to start making their own food. Is that good? Is that bad? It's a stage in what's happened over here. Bnei Israel are beginning to take more responsibility for themselves. Life in Israel is going to demand taking responsibility for all aspects of life. But when it starts happening, and suddenly they're no longer the clouds that used to flatten the mountains, and now we need to climb up the mountains on the Jordanian side of the Jordan River, up all of the mountains to the top to go around the dome. They start complaining, they get punished. And for the first time, they admit that they sinned. They say, Chatanu. They managed to realize there's a problem in the behavior, in the national behavior. And the moving into Eretz Israel and the interaction with a lot of death. And we know that. We know that coming to Eretz Israel always involved a lot of challenges from Avraham Avinu and the wars that he had here with the kings, and Yaakov Avinu when he comes in, and Shechem, and fighting for everything, and Bnei Israel coming in afterwards, and Beit Rishon and Beit Sheni, always a lot of wars. Every time we come into Eretz Israel, confronts us with a lot of death. And it confronts us with being able to explain what is life about, what is the value of life. Why are we here? Why did we come through all of these thousands of years of Jewish history? And finally we're here, what kind of life do we need to create here? And the parasha starts off with explaining that the things that have got to do with tahara and things that have got to do with tumah. And we need life in the direction of tahara that will lead to kedusha, which is the higher level. But if life is not that way, if we miss out on that, if we try and live other life that is not full of kedusha and tahara, it doesn't work. Then suddenly the snakes that were for years around Israel in the desert, suddenly they start biting. How come it never happened for 40 years? No, we weren't at the level to deal with that reality. We couldn't deal with nature yet. And also nature doesn't sting if you don't deserve that. But when suddenly we're at that stage where we need to provide for ourselves physically, spiritually, and we sin, then there are a lot of different ways around. The other nations, the animals, the weather, a lot of things God can create in order to try and shape us, move us in the direction. And we need to live up to that. And Baruch Hashem, we know that if we live in this generation, the same as their generation, were the suitable people to do that next stage after the generation before them couldn't enter Eretz Israel. They could. Same thing is for us. For many years, Jews couldn't enter Eretz Israel. It was impossible. It was out of reach. Jews wanted to come. Baalei HaTosfot came. The Rambam, everyone tried to come. They couldn't establish anything over here. And now, God has made it possible. So we're capable of dealing with what it means living in Eretz Israel. Be'ezrat Hashem, Shabbat Shalom.